I'm up for the challenge. All right, here we go. We're going to give a short, as Wade said, a short overview of our accomplishments last year, a sneak preview of our action plan update, and set the stage for the rest of the day. Starting with where we are. We're coming off a great regional meeting down in the Inland Empire. Thank you to all of our collective efforts in the Inland Empire. Our team down there did an amazing job with local interest to come up with a first-class agenda. We're now here in Sacramento. As you all know, we alternate between Sacramento meetings and regional meetings. Our next regional meeting will be in Tuolumne County, where there's just a tremendous amount of local collaborative work going on. So really looking forward to that meeting, hearing what their issues are, and getting some great tours in. And for those of you who are bikers, we're going to have yet another bike fire tour. So get your bikes tuned. So again, I'll just flip through some of these. As Dan, as Chief Berland said a few minutes ago, we're going to have today's announcement, another round of funding that's out the door, $62 million from CAL FIRE for wildfire prevention. That's going to be followed at near the beginning of next year with a whole wave of grants that is made available through passage of Prop 4. So money continues to flow. We also had a big announcement yesterday on the science end. I think Wade kicked off with some amazing new LiDAR work. We're going to hear about that later in the agenda. That's really the next wave of technology that's going to allow us really to get the next level in terms of better targeting, planning, priority setting out in the field. And then also, as Wade said, just amazing progress on streamlining. I can't tell you the number of people that have come up to me in various workshops and forums. Like, we couldn't really believe that we could get something approved by the state in 30 days, but it's happening. And it's happening not just occasionally, but upwards of 200 projects. So thanks to the interagency team that's come together to make sure those projects are approved promptly, and a lot of work already underway. Projects that typically take a year or two to get approved and underway are happening really rapidly. And again, also, as Wade said, the new beneficial fire EO is going to also allow us to accelerate work across the board. Really represents, I think, a now thriving partnership among practitioners, air quality regulators, land management agencies who are working collectively to try to move beneficial fire forward in a way that also protects public health. And climate bond funding, as I said, we've already got almost $50 million out thanks to our Conservancy family, and more is going to be awarded in the next year that's coming among our chain of conservancies, WCB, and other land management agencies. Wade mentioned the 25 deliverables. Yeah, it was a big challenge to try to put together a list that was achievable, but also aggressive and realistic at the same time. So what I'm going to do is just walk you through some of the highlights, not carry every single one, but give you a flavor of what we've been able to accomplish. It all started, of course, at the home level, where CAL FIRE stepped up, got the fire hazard maps out, worked with a stakeholder community to develop a comprehensive roadmap to create wildfire adapted communities that we are then going to draw from. That document's out there as a strong set of recommendations that's going to be included in our action plan update. And the Board of Forestry, as you know, is hard at work at the very challenging task of implementing the Zone 0 rule in a way that works for communities throughout the state. On the landscape side, a wide range of new programs. Jason mentioned the fuel break network that Forest Service is working on with private folks. We got legislation last year to add CAL FIRE to that mix. So we're going to have a new collaborative effort between CAL FIRE, Forest Service, private landowners to develop a comprehensive fuel break system throughout the state. So really happy that that's underway and proceeding rapidly. Secondly, as you're going to hear in a panel later, we're moving quickly to develop a statewide network of interagency 5-year plans that's going to align Forest Service work, state work, local work, tribal work as we try to advance our work collectively. And a new state lands initiative. Again, you're going to hear about this later today, where the state land owning agencies have come together. These are some of the most iconic landscapes in California. They're trying to get out in front of climate change, out in front of fires, with a comprehensive resilience strategy for state land. Utilities. We've been behind on partnering with utilities. That's changing rapidly. We're meeting now regularly with a whole network of utility groups trying to share ideas, share data, share modeling, develop pilot projects where we're partnering with utilities and land management agencies. Look for a lot more of that in the coming year. Reforestation. This has sort of been a hidden issue. We're ramping up. As many of you know, we've had millions of acres burned at high intensity. We really need to do a better job of getting on top of that. So we commissioned a team led by Steve Estoya, who's here, to put together a comprehensive reforestation strategy that's nearing completion, that again is going to align state, federal, local, tribal work to try to reforest our most critical lands. And then finally, grazing, another issue that's been underappreciated. We now have a draft set of recommendations from a grazing collaborative work group on how we can use prescribed grazing throughout the state as a key tool for wildfire resilience. So again, a lot happening on the landscape scale with regard to various programs there. Beneficial fire, I won't go into great detail, but again, we have the MOU executive order that was issued in late October. We had a forum on it Wednesday. A lot of progress happening there. CAL FIRE will also soon, using Prop 4 money, be launching a new beneficial fire hub and training network that's really going to help increase capacity and learning around the state. And we continue at CNRA to work with tribes to develop new cultural agreements that are the result of recent legislation that allows the state and tribes to work together and develop partnerships to give tribes the autonomy and skills and ability to do prescribed fire on their own. So that's really exciting development at the state level. Regulatory programs, again, we're often running with our exemption process that's underway, almost 200 projects approved, but just behind that, the Board of Forestry is hard at work at updating CalVTP so that we can get projects, particularly the bigger, more complex projects that don't qualify for the suspension process so that they can move quickly as well. Mass timber and wood products, a lot going on. We're going to hear a panel this afternoon on one of the key elements of that. Partnerships are evolving throughout the state to try to gather together wood materials from a variety of projects in each region so that we can have a more stable supply, sending strong messages to industry out there that the material will be there. Forest Service is ramping up timber production. We've got a new mass timber coalition that is beginning to develop a mass timber strategy. Many of you have read in the last few weeks, we have our first mass timber manufacturing facility now underway in Reading. We've got a workforce strategy and a strike team that's looking at how we can use CAL FIRE money, GoBiz money, Energy Commission money to really give a lot of facilities the jumpstart they need to be more productive and effective across the board. So look for a lot more action on the wood utilization front in the coming year as well. And then finally, of course, on the data side, you're going to hear today that we've got a new set of draft core performance measures that will be a nice supplement to acres treated that will really speak to how effective our projects have been and what results we're getting. And that information, together with our tracking system and a whole wealth of data, is then going to feed into a new wildfire data commons that's underway as well through a consortium of federal, state, local, academic, and scientific institutions. That's a real promising development, again, that's going to be a priority for next year. So in summary, huge amount of work underway, but I have to say, as Wade said, we're not stopping there. We're moving ahead with an action plan update early next year. It's not simply going to be a summary of what we're doing now. It's going to move ahead in several ways that I'll talk about now for just a couple of minutes. We're really trying to orient it around three major pillars. And this is the framing also of today's meeting. We're starting with a 10-year roadmap to resilience. This is a new effort on our part. What it's going to do is it's going to pull together the latest findings from our scientific advisory panel, the CAL FIRE Forest and Range assessment that's underway for the last year or two, new modeling results, all with the intention of trying to come up with a 10-year roadmap for the state to achieve all wildfire resilience goals. You might ask, why are we doing that at the state level when so much of our effort is going regional? Well, we think it's important to communicate to the administration, to the legislature, to others, what we can collectively achieve over the next 10 years due to all the great work that's being done regionally, how much funding is going to be necessary to get where we need, what are the benefits of that, and also to talk about the differences regionally, in particular between Southern California and Northern California on how we approach things. So you'll hear today a lot of time and effort being put into a 10-year roadmap that'll provide sort of an overarching strategy as we move forward. Secondly, okay, how are we going to get that actually done? That's where our regional resilience framework comes in. Our new plan is going to have profiles for each of the 4 regions. It'll talk about the unique risks, the unique strategies, the unique needs in each of our 4 regions throughout the state, and then a comprehensive approach about how we, the task force agencies, are collectively going to be helping those regions get where they need to be. It's going to start with 5 and 10-year plans throughout the state. We're bringing together the work of all the agencies that are working in each region. We're going to continue streamlining permitting across the board. We're going to be partnering, as Jason said, so that we're ramping up projects so that they cross state, federal, local, private land. We're going to use our new outcome-based measures to report performance, and we're going to be aligning and leveraging funding through block grants and other means like never before. So a comprehensive approach by the task force and its member agencies to help local agencies better plan, prioritize, fund, and report on projects across the board. And then finally, we're continuing to work on our shared strategies. This was really the focus of the original action plan. We're now up to, as you can see, more than 20 individual strategies. All of these have work groups, interagency folks coming together to make sure we get alignment on all the key issues that are in front of us, from beneficial fire to grazing to reforestation to streamlining, et cetera. So a lot underway across the board. It's a big issue, big commitment among many of you we know, but it's really paying off as we're seeing through the Prescribed Fire Work Group and other related efforts. How are we going to do this in the plan? This is sort of a good graphic about the new web-based approach that we're going to take for each of these major issues to make sure this enormous effort is readable. We're going to have these simple one-page overviews where we're going to talk about why does this issue matter, what's been accomplished, what are our key actions moving forward, and where can you get more information? So again, look for this kind of template as we move forward, and we're going to be reaching out to a lot of you for comment and input as this thing moves forward. The schedule. We are now at a point where we've gotten comments from many of our work groups, from our mid-level staff, among all the agencies. We're now going to take that input, polish it up after this meeting, start the process of getting executive review among all of our member agencies with the expectation of getting a draft plan out sometime in February. We will then go out for public comment with the hope of coming back to this group and others in the spring with a final report that will be done in parallel with the so-called SB 254 report that you'll hear about soon. That's really going to look statewide about some of the key issues and how we fund wildfire resilience across the state. So I hope that gives you a flavor where we're headed. Lots going on, lots happening. When I reflect back over, this plan versus the plan we put together 5 years ago, it's really been remarkable what we've achieved. At the time, there wasn't a lot of dedicated funding to wildfire, one account only. We've now have spent in the last several years billions of dollars between state and federal investments due to the governor's leadership, the legislature's leadership. We've got a brand new capacity building program, over $100 million spent. So huge boost in funding over the last several years, really unprecedented. And then, of course, together with that, 5 years ago, we weren't tracking projects, we weren't tracking expenditures, much less tracking how effective they are. We now have, as Chief Berlant said, a wide range of data sets, reviews, dashboards that are out there to provide transparency, accountability across the board. We're increasing our partnerships every day. Again, as Jason and Wade both said, it's just been really gratifying to see stakeholders, agencies, scientists, academics all get together across the board. You'll certainly continue to hear that. And then finally, I think probably the most important thing we've done in the last 4 or 5 years is really increase our knowledge base on what's working and what's not working. 5 years ago, there were really spirited debates over, should we focus on thinning? Should we focus on prescribed fire? Should we focus in the WUI versus the general forest? Do fuel breaks really work? Is home hardening in defensible space really that critical? We now have a tremendous wealth of data that you'll hear about throughout this morning that allows us in this next version of the plan to be much, much more strategic. Again, as we shift from acres treated to more outcome-based measures, we now have the tools to much better plan, prioritize, and estimate benefits of projects. So we're going to take advantage of that to have a much more strategic focus over the next 5 and 10 years. At the state level, we're going to continue to focus on alignment, building capacity, building those science data tools, streamlining, but more than ever, we're going to look to local communities to build capacity, use those tools to tailor your solutions to your needs, your priorities. So look for that in the plan that's coming ahead, and I look forward to hearing more today and to hear the executive committee's comments on how we intend to try to pull all this information together in a way that's meaningful and effective. So thank you, Wade.
Yeah, big thanks, Patrick. That was a tour de force of a summary of what's happened in 25 and what we're planning in 2026. And I guess I would just make one comment, and that is a recognition of the hundreds, if not thousands of people who have figured in and built these shared strategies, helped us make so much progress in the 2021 action plan, and then shape up this 2026 action plan. To me, this task force is, not a state or federal driven thing. It's something that we all own. So I'm really appreciative of just how comprehensive it is. We have our arms around this challenge, and that while we're doing so many things across so many topics, there's a coherence and a structure that ultimately will lead to really specific outcomes. Because at the end of the day, most Californians will never know about this task force or our processes, and they don't need to. They need to understand, are we taking action to help California be safer and healthier? And that's why I'm excited to see the 2026 plan be finalized with really specific outcomes around how we're going to hold ourselves accountable in the next decade. All right, thank you.